All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Wednesday, April 23rd. Bit of a pop here. Got the Nasdaq futures up 3%, the RUT up 2.8, S&P futures up 2.5, Bitcoin's up 2.3, Dow Jones futures up 2, and then silver's flat, crude oil down a bit, and gold down about 2.5. It's a pretty good pop here, and we kind of got this pattern here of we flush away from our 21 EMA, big rally back, rejection, right back down, big rally, rejection, right back down. So now on the pop here this morning, they're trying to get back through that 21 EMA. Pretty much makes $1 million question. Is it going to be more of the same where popping back into it, you rope in a few bulls, and then the market just dies and falls apart? Or could it be a case of, maybe they have trap shorts, they can take this pop at the bottom, maybe turn that into a move where the NQ's back into, I'd be looking up here around 20K. Weekly 50, weekly 21 EMA, daily 50, weekly 21 rather. So I think the key from here, guys, will be, can we get that two close rule? So kind of a combination of, call for, if I could spell, recipe for a bigger short squeeze. Or I think one, can we get two closes? I can't spell. Two closes back above the daily 21 EMA. And then number two, can we get a lot of lower time frame buy signals? And them getting that won't change the entire market. Like, I don't think you're back into a bull market. I don't think we're back into an uptrend back towards the previous all-time highs. But I do think a couple good closes, couple buy signals, they might short squeeze it around 20K or so. That'd be my target. And then checking the signals here this morning, not too bad. For one good thing here for the bulls, no more active signals. They canceled the daily sell signal, canceled the 4-hour, canceled all of them. And now we have a buy signal on the 2-hour, 1-hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute. So that's the kind of action from the ground up. Trying to show us, at least from now, bulls have got something to work with. They've got better trend, better structure, better signals. If they drop the ball and they're back under that 21 EMA, I kind of think it's all for nothing. If they can hold their ground and get those two closes, I think there's a few days, maybe a good week. Price is trying to go higher. So good pop on the NQ, and then quick look here at the S&P futures. All right, little poke above. 2-hour buy signal, 1-hour buy signal, 30-minute and a 5-minute. So I think it's a good step in the right direction. And we bought some MSTR yesterday. Let's go take a look at that one. My game plan is not to buy gap up this morning. That temptation will be there. We got some call debit spreads on MSTR, and looking like a gap into about 355-ish. We might keep that trade. We might cash. We might cash in that trade for a profit. A couple things I would like to buy, but I think I'm going to be a little patient here at the open. Pretty much can the bulls prove themselves? Two good closes back above the 21. Good handful of buy signals. Then I'll come in looking at the Netflixes, looking at the Nvidias, trying to find a few short-term longs. But all right, so one that I do like here would be the micro strategy, which do keep in mind earnings are next week for this one. But looking at the daily chart, and everything's trying to shape up here, slowly but surely. Daily squeeze fired long yesterday. We are getting the first daily buy signal since early December. So it's been a while. And then I think the bigger move down the road, down the road may be a couple of weeks down the road, could be a couple of months down. But I think it could be the move here off the weekly chart. Mainly off the back of that weekly squeeze. Had one back here in September, October. Right, momentum shift. We got the white arrow, kicks off a pretty impressive move. And then your pullback, you're breaking the action, all the back and forth chop. Brand new weekly squeeze. And yeah, for the most part, it leans pretty bullish. Scoreboard gives it 13 points out of 15. Trend is bullish. The structure is bullish. We're waiting on momentum. And that blue arrow down there on the histogram, that's your slingshot signal. Slingshot signal means, like back here, momentum goes through a bit of a bear cycle. They take the MACD line, hold it back below zero. Nothing happens to the trend or the structure of the chart. So think of it like, you build a brand new house and then you got to sit through a hurricane. If you got a good, strong foundation, all that stuff, the house can probably hold up pretty well. That momentum shift is your hurricane, so to say. They don't go knocking down the house. Right? Structure really good, 21 above the 50. The trend is good. So that can create a situation where they pull back momentum. Then momentum snaps back above zero. That can kick off a slingshot squeeze. Pull back momentum, slingshot it higher, break it out, squeeze fires. So that blue arrow is basically our first heads up. They're trying to get to a point where they can turn that into a big move. Structure lined up, trend lined up. If they can get that Momo, I think makes her move down the road back into 450 to 500. If they can't go and get that momentum shift, I don't think that move can happen. So a little bit down the road, and then 3-day squeeze here. Right, trend is good, structure is good. Got to get momentum, and then the 2-day squeeze. Not too bad, not too good. A little bit more neutral. But yeah, guys, I think be patient, get through earnings. At some point, if we can get the white arrow, should be shaping up for a big move there on the micro strategy. Next up is going to be Netflix with a pretty impressive move there yesterday. Along the same lines of micro strategy, it's a patient for now, but we're getting the early heads up. Brand new weekly squeeze, slingshot signal. Pretty basic stuff. If they can get that MACD shift, odds pretty much favor they want to take that squeeze. And I think you're looking for 1150 into about 1200 if they can get that momentum shift. So we're pretty much exactly where you were right back on that candle back here. In the breeze, really good trend, really good structure. 21 EMA above the 50, stacked EMAs, waiting on that momentum shift. Couple weeks later, they get it. We get the white arrow, and off goes Netflix. So I think in terms of playing it in the direction of trend, that should be the likely move forward. One thing we all want to keep in mind: last time Netflix had that big weekly squeeze move, and frankly, the same thing for MicroStrategy. They both had a much better looking market behind it. So Netflix weekly squeeze, white arrow, all the bells and whistles. Well, just so happens back in October, here's your QQQ giving you the same exact thing. Weekly squeeze, white arrow, all the bells and whistles. In that kind of moment in time, you can pretty much blindfold yourself, go and buy a call, and you get a pretty good chance of making money. Right? As QQQ goes a lot of things. That took, what the heck just happened there? Here we go. Well, that was funky. Am I tripping? Where was I there? Never seen that happen before. Yeah, but point being, we have a couple of things you're trying to set up in a big bulletin. Bitcoin futures, Netflix weekly chart, MSTR weekly chart. Key thing to keep in mind: we're not back in September, October of last. If the QQQ looked that good right now, I'd be looking for like a 10 to 15% position size in a Netflix or a MicroStrategy. QQQ looking, nothing like it did back there. Neutral trend, neutral structure. I can look for a shot in Netflix. I can look for a shot in MicroStrategy. It's just a position sizing thing. We want to hit him the hardest and hit him with the biggest size with a great market behind him. I think we're very far from that moment in time. Right, that took the Netflix weekly squeeze higher. That took the Amazon weekly squeeze higher. Like for me, that's the best possible moment in time. Indexes lined up, stocks lined up. Um, Tough to beat that kind of opportunity. Really, really good alignment. We don't have that right now. So could they work? I think they could. Um, it'll be a matter of whether or not the market can support that push higher. Meaning, I don't think if the QQQ finds a big rejection today and rolls over, I don't think Netflix can buck the trend and push into 1200. If the Bulls can catch a bid for even a week or two, buy themselves some breathing room, take things higher, that might be enough for Netflix to go on and get the job done. But I do want to be clear about that. I don't think we're in a great swing trading market. So be selective, be picky, keep your wrist nice and tight. Um, Focus on things that are showing signs of relative strength and have better setups. I wouldn't go looking at, say, like an Apple wouldn't be my first choice. It's got sell signals, it's got broken structure. Now, granted, if the QQQ can rally for a week and a half, Apple's probably going to go much higher. I want to put my cash in something like a Netflix, who, while the market has been falling apart, has just held up really good here. Right? Never got the daily sell signal, never broke the trend. Uh, you know, Gets even a decent market behind it. I think it can go on and make a nice move. So I'm liking Netflix. I am liking MSTR. Looking like a 355 to 356 open. We've got that 350, 360 call debit spread. We'll think about cashing out here at the open. And then my third pick for you fine folks would be the Bitcoin futures. Not to be a broken record. If the market falls apart from here, I don't think any ideas work. So SQQQ first, and then the MicroStrategy, then the Nvidias, Netflixes. But on the Bitcoin futures, pretty big nested squeeze going. A lot like Netflix, a lot like MicroStrategy. We're waiting on momentum turn. Really nice pattern playing out here where they print a weekly squeeze. Right, they break it long, and then the pull back, the chop, they print another weekly squeeze. They again break it long. Right, the pull back, the chop, and now here we are, another weekly squeeze. Trend criteria says you're bullish. Structure criteria says you're bullish. 13 points out of 15. Waiting on momentum. Get that MACD shift, get the white arrow, and I think that could shape up for a move into a brand new all-time high. Got to get that momentum shift. If they can't get that, they might pop it a bit higher, maybe take it into 100K and change. We're not going to get that big, massive breakout without everything firing on all cylinders. Food for thought. Think of how long that weekly squeeze was back here. In an uptrend, really good chart structure. But we entered the weekly squeeze in late June, and we don't fire and break out until early November. July, you're waiting. August, you're waiting. September, October, November, you're waiting. They finally kick the thing off when the MACD crosses back above zero. So I can't look at it and think today, yeah, they're gearing up right here, right now for a push back into 115,000. I think they can get there, but only if they get everything lined up. So that's more of a bigger picture swing trade idea, potentially in the works. What can I do here in the short term? I think you drop down to your 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute squeezes and just day trade the thing. We caught a modest little push there yesterday. Very modest, I would say. So we jumped in here around 5:30 in the morning off of the 30-minute squeeze. All right, minute squeeze sets up, getting the white arrow. So we got long right around there. Ourselves a decent little pop. Took profit around 89,500. And then, yeah, as as you can see, the pump just kept on pumping. and pumping and pumping and pumping, and then gap up last night. A little bit more pumping. So I'm going to wait for my white arrow on the weekly chart for a bigger swing. What I'll do here in the short term is just keep on picking off these lower time frame setups. White arrow on a 5-minute squeeze, white arrow on a 15-minute, 30-minute. Could be a good source of income here while we wait for a bigger setup. So Bitcoin futures, MicroStrategy, Netflix would be my 3 best ideas for now. Other idea would be, take your QQQ, and then maybe right away on the gap up. But if they can get a couple good closes back above the daily 21, wait for a 15-minute squeeze, wait for a 30-minute squeeze, I think it makes for a short-term long. Let's see, QQQ cash. A lot of ifs. If they can get that 2 close rule, and then they get in the 5 buy signals, 15-minute, 30-minute, I think that could kick off a push from 460-ish back into about 480. Doesn't change too much. You're not back in the bull market. You're not back in an uptrend. If anything, might make for a great shorting opportunity. But that could be a couple of days where you're buying it around 460, 465, catching a decent, $10, $15 push. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then anything else here worth noting? So Tesla had earnings last night, and looking like a 255, 257 open. I think you can take that 2 close rule, apply it to most things. So Tesla gaps up, they get 2 closes back above their daily 21. Right, 15-minute buy signal comes through, 30-minute buy signal. I might be a buyer for a pop back into about 270. Nothing too big, nothing too major. But if the shorts are trapped, not too tough for a decent, $10, $15 pop out of a Tesla. Let's go take a quick peek here at the one they call NVIDIA. All right, now NVIDIA back above 100. I think can buy the bulls a lot of breathing room. From a weighting perspective, NVIDIA is like 24% of the SMH. It's a big chunk of the QQQ, S&Ps, XLK. So from a weighting perspective, NVIDIA under $100. I think a little bit liable for a flush back down towards recent lows. No part of NVIDIA going down another 10, 12, 15% is going to be great for the market. Puts pressure on the indexes, pressure on the SMH, semiconductors, other tech names. Gap into about 104 here this morning. We don't want to go and get too giddy. Right. Good looking pop up, brings some optimism with it, brings some excitement with it. NVIDIA back above $100. That can definitely buy the bulls some breathing room. It doesn't all of a sudden make NVIDIA a great looking chart. We'll be under the falling 21 with a daily sell signal. Now, if NVIDIA can go on and get that 2 close rule, great for NVIDIA in the short term, even better for the market in the short term. So that bad boy into 104 is a good thing for the bulls. And then let's see, Apple pop it into 205, 206. Again, watch it for a 2 close rule. The Google into $1.55. Really want to get some Netflix. TSM $1.58, Tesla $2.56, Amazon $1.82. Nice pop in Meta. Meta back into 527, which again will change nothing about the daily chart. And then Broadcom into about 178. And then aside from that, guys, checking the future squeezes here. And what do we got? Bitcoin with a weekly slingshot. I don't think I'll trade it, but a lot of squeezes here for the silver futures. Whole bunch of them. And then, gold futures down about 3% here. I wouldn't mind getting gold futures back down towards that buy zone. Maybe looking for a few longs down there. But all right, y'all, that is what I got for you on a Wednesday morning. Any questions you got for me, any chart requests, get them in the chat. I will get going through. But again, to rehash here, I think good looking pop feels very much like a short squeeze move. Key will be one. Can we get a couple closes back above the daily mean? And they may be a little bit more important. After a good gap up, after a good short squeeze, how can we handle the first decent back test? So here's a good example of they don't handle it too well. Trap some shorts, big pump, squeeze them out, squeeze them out, squeeze them out. Right. Our first back test, everything falls apart again. Under the 21, under the 50, no buy trigger, momentum break. No real signs of a good-looking hourly uptrend. If they pop it and push it, and then you pull back and you hold better support, hold better structure, then I think you got something to work with here in the short term. But all right, y'all, a little Q&A, and then I'll be on the mic in my room. Let's see, one more look here at micro. 355-ish on the micro strategy. Here's the thing about the out-the-money debit spread. For this Friday's expiration, they gap it up, push it, and off to the races. We're going to be in great shape. Could also be a case where we gap up, we push, and then any move back under 350, we could be left with no profit at all and eventually a max loss. So there's a fine line between trying to catch a bulk of the pop and then getting a little bit too greedy. My thought might be, take the profit at the open, then take a step back, chill out. Now we got some profit to play with. Look for a signal in the QQQ, look for a Netflix buy, be patient for a bit, but then parlay that profit into a brand new trade. It might be the game plan. Hey, good morning, Luke. Yes, a good question. Where would I think about getting back into gold? It's pretty extended. This thing's been a beast. One way to look at it, we are about. Yeah, what an animal. We're about 9% above the monthly third ATR extension. So we're like 10% above what would usually be my upside target. Super, super strong. So I think it's kind of like a process of elimination thing. They pulled back to a 15-minute 21 EMA, couldn't quite hold it, and now we're breaking lower. They pulled back to a 30-minute 21 EMA, couldn't quite hold it, now we're breaking lower. We're going to open around 305 here on GLD. So 305-ish. Not to say we'll get down there, but to me, a good sweet spot would be, good kick back to that daily 21 EMA. Reversion to the mean. Then you're getting the 15-minute buy trigger, 30-minute buy trigger. From there, they might try to get continuation of that overall trend. That's 295-ish. If you look at a weekly 21, that's all the way down there at 270-ish. That's like 12, 13% below the current price. So I make it a process of elimination. They pulled back to the hourly 21 EMA yesterday. No buy trigger, no 15-minute buy, no 30-minute buy, and now they're gapping down about $5 or $6. So now I can rule out the idea of buying it at the hourly 21, right, drop down to a 4-hour chart. Okay, 4-hour 21 around 300 and change. Maybe that could be a spot. Key would be, as always, we don't want to blindly get long at any level. We want to mark up what could be a potential buy zone and then get signs of action to take. So to me, that could look like we pull back to the 4 hour 21. We hold it, and then my 5 minute chart gives me a buy trigger, 15-minute buy signal, 30-minute buy signal. That's my cue to jump in and buy it at support. We pull back to support, and there's no 15-minute buy, no 30-minute buy. All right, I've got a level, but nothing to do at the level. You don't tend to see that happen too often. That far above the monthly extension. So from one point of view, it's incredibly strong. They might gap it down, pull it back to a 4 hour 21. That might be all she wrote. Find support, rebuild, couple of buy triggers, and off goes GLD. Or it could be a case of that this thing is so stretched, so overbought, it might need a deeper pullback than 300 and change. So mark up key levels and then wait for buy triggers. Good question, Luke. And yeah, that's a good question. As to the open in the first 30, 60 minutes of trade, wouldn't you think it's a matter of old business before new business, which would indicate short covering needs to transpire before trap sellers emerge to reduce their exposure? Yeah, that's a good question, and I think to me the response is just the solution is just wait for the dust to settle. Um, Now, for every trader out there in the world today, the human brain will say, go get long, go take action, buy this, buy that. We want to think a little bit more. All right, nice pop, right? Looks, feels, smells very much like a short squeeze. Whether that move ends here today, tomorrow, next week, what are we working with afterwards? What can the short squeeze do for you? Kind of mentality. Can it give me better structure? Can it get priced back above key levels? Can I get buy signals? To me, that'll be the key. Trying to figure out is just good old fashioned squeeze out the shorts, and then right back down we go, or potentially the beginning of a decent move. Fun part is, guys, we'll all find out here together. And hey, for all I know, we gap up and QQQ's up 8% by the time we close today. I'm not thinking about buying a bunch of things here on the initial gap. Show me a good party, then I'll show up a little bit late. All right, good morning, folks on YouTube. Gabe, how are you, my friend? Def recommends setting an early sell order so you get priority. Yeah, Gabe, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, that's one little downside there, MicroStrategy. Them spreads can be a little wonky. So yeah, to your point, beneficial. Take profit on the strength. You're not wrong though. I've had a couple trades on this one where, you know, I'll take it off for what should be like a 10% loss, and due to the spreads, I'm down like 40, 50. She a wild one. 356 ish. If anything, guys, it's nice to see bigger time frames trying to set up. I don't know when they break out. I don't know if they even break out at all. But even seeing the effort is nice to see. Warms my heart to see some some weak squeeze action. Hey, good morning there, Rich Trader. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, P Thunder, thoughts on Marathon Digital? What's the ticket for that one? Marathon Digital. If you can drop the ticker in the chat here, I'll take a look for you. Hey, good morning, Miss Claudia. Good to see you. Can I send us the update from the squeeze with the slingshot on the squeeze board? Yeah, so Claudia, if you're referring to the labels over here, the columns rather, give me about a week and change. We'll push out a little update. Nothing too major, but a little visual update. Yeah, Gabe, that's a whole battle of being a trader is fighting that space between your ears. Um, and that can happen in both directions. So, all day Monday afternoon, right, Qs were down like 4%, S&P's down 3.5%. Um, I got that itch, I got that temptation. I got to get short. Like Nvidia is down 8%. Oh my God, we got sell signals, we got ABC. Yeah, that voice says, yeah, go take action. Got to get short. I don't like getting short when we're about like 3% below the hourly 21 EMA. Little pop, little kickback, your puts are pretty much toast. So it's a matter if you got the human brain saying one thing, and then your game plan, your rules, your discipline saying to do the other. And that is the tough part of it all, my friends. Most times it'll work in your favor. Stick to your guns, follow your rules, and sometimes it'll have you missing out on decent moves. One rule of mine is I don't want to get swing long overnight. When the QQQ closes like it did back on Monday, like none of that gives me the warm and fuzzies. Big gap down, big flush, bunch of sell signals, broken structure. So part of my rules is I'm not going to ignore the indexes and go and get long overnight. And then meanwhile, every part of my brain says you got to buy Netflix. Like really good score, ranked out really good. Beautiful weekly squeeze, perfect hourly squeeze. There's a case where following that rule, indexes look like death. I'm not going to get swing long. Broken the rule that time around. I'm the guy catching a 6% pump in Netflix yesterday. Had I broken my rule back on Monday, getting short that far below the hourly 21, well, now I'm the guy who got my team short, and you know, now they're throwing rocks at me. Big pop, gap up, big pump. And one thing about this market, it'll definitely test that discipline, the rules. But we got to do what we got to do, guys. But all right, y'all, I got to jump here. Waiting on see 9:20. Yeah, folks in my room, I'll be there in about 4 or 5 minutes. Gonna go heat up the coffee, and then yeah, I think for MSTR we'll take a quick paycheck here at the open, and then patiently parlay that into a new trade. Key here for the market, guys: two close rule, daily 21 EMA. And again, if they can get that, I think we have room for a decent push. So if I'm, even half right on that kind of thinking, Qs go 460 back to 480. You don't have to be the first guy or gal to buy that. Whether you buy QQQ at 460, 465, or 470, and then to catch a pop in the 480, it's still going to be a nice move to catch. So have the willingness to be a little bit more patient. Be okay with being a little bit late to the party. You might be a little bit late, but then you got more to work with. More confirmation, more clarity, better signals, more confidence in the idea. But all right, y'all, go get them. Best of luck, and I'll talk to you same time, same channel next week. Adios. Yeah, Gabe, one good trade and then one good trade.